I had a request for a sponge cake video. So here we go. First we're going to start out, I've got 3 eggs here. I have a little separator tool here. Separate the yolks from the whites. Just put yolks over here, and then put the whites in this bowl as we go. So you want to make sure that you don't get any yolk in with the white. Because if that happens, then they won't whip up the way we want them to. This is the way I usually make a sponge cake. It's not really a traditional recipe. There's another way you can separate them too, if you don't happen to have one of those fancy little gizmos. Basically what I'm doing is making a yellow cake and then fortifying it with egg whites beaten up. So the recipe calls for 2 eggs, and we're going to use 3, but we're going to use the yolks in the batter, and then we'll whip up the egg whites. You can also do this with a cake mix instead of making the yellow cake from scratch. Kind of the same thing. If you get a super moist cake mix, it'll call for 2 eggs, increase it to 3, separate them out like this, and then we're going to start. It's going to get a little loud here, my old 1960 mixer here. I'm going to incorporate a couple tablespoons of our sugar just to help this whip up better. Break the size down a little bit. Okay, what you want is stiff peaks, and that's exactly what we have here. This ingredient is what turns your yellow cake into a sponge cake. So then, oven's preheated to 350 degrees. So I've got 2/3 of a cup of room temperature butter, 1 3/4 cups of sugar. Put that in there. If you were going to make a chocolate sponge, you'd want to go ahead now and add cocoa to this, but we're just going to do a regular, traditional. just creaming the butter and sugar together. Now we'll start adding egg yolks one at a time. Now we'll add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Get that whipped in. Next steps. I have 2½ cups of flour, and to that we'll add 2½ teaspoons baking powder. And 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Mix that together so everything is combined. Now we start building the batter. Have 1 1/4 cups of milk here, and at this point, if you wanted to make an orange sponge, you could substitute part of the milk, add orange juice for part of it, maybe some orange peel in there, a little orange rind, and if you wanted to do lemon, kind of the same thing. If you wanted to do a chocolate sponge, at this point, add 1/3 cup of cocoa to this. So all kinds of different things you can do with this. So we're gonna start our mixer back up. I'm gonna add a little bit of the milk, and then we're gonna start getting our flour incorporated in here. A little bit more milk. Scrape your sides down on a bowl. Another addition of milk. rest of the flour in. And then the last of the milk. Make sure everything is mixed together well. There you have your yellow cake batter. Oops. Things happen. Okay. Now you want to put in your egg whites. Don't do quite all of them at once. This is what's going to lighten it and give it that sponge-like texture. You just want to gently fold these in. So that you're not taking all the air out of that meringue that we just made. And we'll do the rest of our egg whites now. Just keep folding that in. You don't want to see any big lumps or streaks of egg white. But you also don't want to mix it so much that you deflate it. Looks good. Move stuff out of the way a little bit. I'm making this one really thin. I'm doing it on a baking sheet. So I have a baking sheet that I sprayed first, and I lined it with parchment paper, and then sprayed it a little bit again. The reason I have the ends hanging over is that will give us a way to actually lift the cake out of the pan when it's done. You can also do this in a 9x13 or 2 9-inch rounds. The thicker it is, the longer you'll want it to bake. Probably have enough batter. I could have done this on 2 sheets, but we'll have it a little bit thicker than we did the last time. One of the things to do is, if you do it in a 9x13 or a round cake pan, it's deep enough, you'll want to test it with a toothpick to make sure it's done. With it thinner like this, you can tell by just when you touch the top and it springs right back, then it's done. You want to spread this out so it's even. It will self-level a little bit in the oven, but not a ton. Okay, we're going to put this in a preheated 350-degree oven for 20 minutes, and we'll see where we're at. See you in 20. Here you have your buttery vanilla sponge cake. It actually took a little over 35 minutes. Forgot it was quite a bit thicker than the last time I did this. So I'll show you what I mean when I say check when it's done, when it pops back like that while it's in the oven. You don't see any jiggle or anything, and it springs right back. It means it's done. So we're going to see now if this works. Make sure we're loose on the sides here. Pull it right out of there on our parchment paper. Put it on a rack to cool. So there you have it. It won't develop its entire sponge-like quality until it's pretty much cooled down to room temperature. But let's just go ahead and cut a little piece of it here. And this is thick enough that you could actually cut it in two if you wanted to line a pan with it or make layers out of it. And like I said, it's not totally to the sponge stage yet. It really needs to cool down the rest of the way. But there you have it. Fairly quick and easy. Like I said before, easy shortcut is to use a yellow cake mix and do the egg substitution that I did for this, and it should work for you. See you next time.